Hello and welcome to this your first tutorial for the emissions calculator app. My name is Gabriel Fuentes. I am the teacher assistant for the Sustainable Energy course at NHH. If there's any question that may arise from these tutorials or any overall question regarding the development of the emissions calculator app, please do not hesitate to send me a message to this email account. Our plan is that you could develop, after 6 tasks, an emissions calculator app which outcome could be observed in a website. This first task includes setting a cloud environment, followed by defining the app structure in tutorial 2. In tutorial 3, we're going to talk about the app design and how to change things like color and fonts. In task 4, we're going to follow up on the app deployment. Task 5 includes some of the areas where we could change the emissions calculation methods within the app, and task 6 closes with the URL redirection of our app. That means that our app running in a place should be redirected to a customized website. This is the general structure of the app. It looks a bit messy, though you don't have to worry about it. I will be following you in every single step of the process. So you might think this exercise could be something like all of you guys being my bosses, and I am the software developer working for you. So I receive your instructions in the things that needs to be adjusted, and then you help me out in deploying the app. As a brief explanation, we will have a user interface, which input passes through our machinery in a cloud, which is also fed by a Python code which runs a module called Flask. Flask is a module for developing web applications. The idea is like you could edit, or you can remove and include records to a local database, also to a global database, and to a backup database, which at the same time is controlled by an administration account, which is going to be controlled by me. So in this first task, directly into business, you will learn to set a cooperative coding environment and manage a project in Github. Create your logbook or diary setting via a README file, and the important syntax to edit. It is okay if you don't understand these terms yet. We will get more details as we continue with this tutorial. Then you will recognize the most favorable license for your project. We will deploy a cloud environment for running an app in Heroku. And then we will create a database to feed your app in real time. Before we go into details on how the licenses are constructed, I'm going to first make a demonstration of how the app should look like. This is a prototype of the app where you can include information such as kilometers made by a single user, a type of transport, a fuel type, a date, the CO2 per record, and a methane record per user, and also the date when it was updated. You have options such as submitting a new record, where you can deploy the information. You can also select and record or delete existing records. The information is updated on real time for your group members individually and also within groups. So even though this is gonna be a comparative exercise, you can think of this as a competition on emissions levels. There's also the option to download a CSV file with the records that you have as it is. So now in the topic of licenses, as this is going to be a real app that will be running in your GitHub account, I suggest that we choose a type of license that allow us to first provide openness for other developers to check out in what you have done. Meaning an open source software. This is what we're going to create in here. In ways that the rights are granted to anyone who wants to study, change, or share the code as you have developed it. The type of licenses, or the most used licenses for open source, are widely recognized as the MIT license, the Apache license, and the GPL. The main difference is that MIT is like all of them waives the developer for any responsibility and allows modification from others. Apache license difference from MIT is that you should declare all modifications done to an original software under this license and have some additional wording regarding grant of patents rights. And you got the GPL, which main difference is like that if somebody is going to use the software, then that person also should distribute their source code openly. I will not extend further on that, even though there exists other type of licenses. If you have if you have additional interest in knowing the type of licenses, I do suggest you to go on a GitHub session and check it out for yourself. Very good. Before we get into this session, I do consider that it will be important for us to create a GitHub account. For doing so, you should go to github.com, go into sign up, and fill in the information as requested from the supplier. This is a good moment to stop the video so that you guys could create your password and username, and then we could continue on the dashboard of GitHub. Welcome back. So once you have created your GitHub account, you should have a dashboard like this, which includes information of, well, at the very beginning you will not have much information, so the options are: first, your profile information is over here. If you like to change your profile picture, your personal information, and add additional settings. Also, if you like to sign out, and from here you go all the time to the dashboard or the main site. So now that you have created your GitHub account, I very much appreciate if you guys could go onto your canvas and go into a quiz called usernames. And I have created as such because it's easier for me to collect your information there. There will be two sections, one for introducing your GitHub username as register, and the other to introduce your Heroku username, as we will create later on. Back into GitHub, I will act as the manager of the app for all the groups, meaning that all of you will be members of a specific organization, as we call it in GitHub. Just as a disclaimer, the next instructions you don't need to follow up. I will just explain it for the sake of argument. So in this case, I will create a new organization with the name of all the groups in different sections. So for instance, I may create a group called ENE425, and I will make it an admin group. Okay, that already exists because I created myself. All right, I introduce values in here. I will just skip this. There will be options to, first of all, this does not change much your settings, though it's important for them to keep records. We're going to do some open source projects, education projects. We will manage code, plan and track work. And they will ask me if I have an existing repository. Well, not for the moment. And I submit. Alright, so I just created a new organization where I will invite each and every one of you by either your username or the email address that you have uploaded to the quiz section. Alright, so my next task will be to create a new repository. What is a repository? It's going to be the place where both our diary, logbook, and our app will be stored. So for this case, I will just write something like emissions calculator app group 1. Just let's change that for group admin 2. That's gonna be just for the example. A clear description like emissions calculator app. Then we set it public. The main difference here is that everything that changes from our repository is others will be able to observe external to our working group, and that's important for open source projects. We're going to add a README file. If you do remember, we did mention that the repository will have a README file, and this will work as our logbook or diary. And the license, as we mentioned before, we have several options. Just for this case, we're going to use an MIT license. I create a repository. Very nice. So this is how a repository looks like. If we go back to our GitHub dashboard, we will find it out in this section over here. I got plenty of them, so there will not be so easy to check. So in that case, I choose here, and we see here's our repository. Okay. So until here, I close the section of creating the organization and building a repository. As you do remember, this section or this part of the tutorial was not meant for you to replicate. It was only for explanation purposes. So reason why I will just erase this repository. All right, once you are invited to the organization of your working group, you should accept the invitation. Then you will have access to something like this. So if we go to the main site, the home page, and you're logged in, you will see something like this. This is our repository for a working group. So your next assignment will be to go into this section called fork, and you will just press it once. What you're going to do there is that every time you log in into your account, you will be able to recommend changes to the Python code or any of the settings of the repository, and me as the administrator will see it and then will approve it or give a comment of improvement. So that means that this is a bridge between the administrator repository and your own repository, which is a direct copy of what is on the administrator repository. Okay, so you just press there and leave it as it is. So what do we got here in the dashboard in the app repository dashboard? First of all, you got your files included. So far I have added for you all the necessary files to run the app, the emissions calculator app. But there's an important section missing, and that's the second section you will create. That's the add readme section. You just go and press in this green button, and it will create a readme file for you. There's not much you have to do in here. So what I will suggest, first I will create it for you. So now we got something called readme file, readme.md, which directly connects to this section over here. So from now on, this is going to be your diary section or your logbook section. You will also include parts of the emissions methodology task that you will divide every single week. Okay, we will get into more detail on the syntax and how to write in this readme section, how to update the fonts, etc. But now we will go directly until this important section over here. We have assigned these projects such that the people engage with the diary The keep-up of the diary should also be project manager. And there's an easy way to do so through a GitHub repository. You go in the projects, then you create a project, you put any name to it, ENE425, and a single description. You can put like project management for ENE425 emissions calculator. Then you press or you select any of the templates. We're going to choose just basic Kanban for this section, and there are some defaults that you can play around and see what they bring. So once we created the project, we will have something like this, very simple, something that includes a to-do column, an in progress column, and if you would like, you can put something like ready column. You're done. Done column. Ready. Okay, so now we got 3 columns. Okay, on the first column you will have examples on how to write in here. If you just go and press over here, you will see the syntax that they use for different style. I always like to keep these ones for reference every time I want to write something cool. So I can write in a single assignment, something like one of the tasks that we did today. Create a GitHub account. We can include something like a button, a tick button over here, and just add, and then we got this section over here. We're going to close this. So we can create different subsections for some of the management tasks that we need to do in order to get our app up and running. So every time you get something started, you can pass it to here in progress, and when it's finished, you can pass it to ready. Okay. So back to the repository. We are going to discuss now how to write in a README file. There's a small pencil at the upper right section. You just press in there and you will have the edition page for the README file. A summary of the syntax could be found at the PowerPoint, and we will just check it out briefly. First, anything that goes after a £sign is going to be a title, and it's going to be included with the title font. Okay. Then you can create an hyperlink, and let's make an example of them. So here's a £sign. You can create a hyperlink by defining anything in here, like link here, followed by a parenthesis, and then a URL or a website. Some of the other options is to include values inside a box. You can put something like a title, input, 2 spaces, and then 2 tabs. The tab key is this button over here you will find in your keyboard. 1, 2, and you can write things. This is the input. Okay. And another cool option is to include images. You do so by writing in exclamation symbol, alt text in square brackets, and then within brackets we're going to introduce one of the images uploaded to a repository. So just let me check in what image we got available. This will be this one. So in the repository we have a folder called notes. In that folder all the images related to the diary can be introduced. we got this image over here called module design version 2. Is this thing over here. So to reference to that, we can take up just the name of the folder and the image path itself. Okay, we just copy this. We go back here and we introduce that here. Okay. Once we're ready to commit the changes, when we're ready to update the changes, we just need to write a description of what we have done. This is not mandatory, this is just an optional section, but it's very nice to have it so we can keep up an historical logbook of changes. So in here we started a README file because that was the first thing we did. Then included a title, a box with input values, a hyperlink, and a picture. All right. So we're just going to press commit changes. And we will see our definitions as in here. So remember, the first one is the title. You got the hyperlink, and then you got input. I'm not sure if the box is visible, but there's a box in here, and the image in here. So if you just visit the website, down here you have several other options to the syntax used by the README file. So this is going to be key for the development of your project, as some of you or all of you has to pass through all sections, namely the app development section, the diary and logbook keeping, and the methodology section. Having this up and running and updated will be paramount for the development of the project. So if a new group likes to keep up or likes to update whatever was done from the previous group, it will be easier if everything is included in here. And it also will be easier for the software developer, in that case me, to see where are the issues that you might face and the things that I could help you out with in a faster way. Okay, so this section, the README section, is going to be key for your software development. Okay, so now that we've finished with the GitHub session for this tutorial, we're going to visit the Heroku website. Heroku is going to be the cloud application machinery to upload our app from the GitHub repository. I'm just going to log out from here for just a second to show you how the original website looks like. Okay, it's something like this. The first thing they get to do is to sign up and create an account, as you did in the GitHub session. Okay, so I have done that myself, so this is also a good time to pause so you could create your Heroku account. Okay, after you come and log into a Heroku account, you will have a dashboard like this. So at least for this tutorial, there's nothing additional you have to do, but for the sake of explanation, I will show you how to create an app, or at least how to create the environment to develop an app. In the case of the project, I'm gonna do it as the manager, and you're gonna be part of the developing process, but we only need one app, so that's why I'm gonna create it myself. So for instance, you can go and create app. You give a name to the app. Admin, for my case, I choose a region, we're closer to Europe, and we just create an app. And that's basically it for it. The second part will require some additional settings. We want to connect our database, we want to connect our app to a database, and we do so by going into configure add-ons. Let's search for some add-ons, namely, not this one, sorry. A Postgres database manager. We get that in here. You can choose different setup options depending on what you choose. You have some flexibility to do additional stuff. For the moment, I do believe that the free option is enough. Okay, so that creates a database, and if you go back to your admin dashboard, you just see your database is connected to your app. Nothing additional to do, and that's what I wanted to show you, at least for this first tutorial. So we will just recap what we have done today. We set a cooperative coding environment and learn how to manage a project in GitHub. So we already created the README file. You don't need to do that yourself, but you already recognize where it's set and how to do some editing and syntax. Then we talk about the licenses and which one is more favorable for our project. We also deployed already a cloud environment for running an app in Heroku. In that case, I did it for you because we only need one environment for each group. So I will prompt you guys that once you finish your Heroku setting, your Heroku sign up, send me the email address that you link to your Heroku account so I can add it to the Heroku environment. And finally, we create a database to feed your app in real time. So every task is gonna be attached to a final question, a question that you can also add in your diary, for which answer you can add to the diary. In this case will be, what other online services, such as Heroku, provide of cloud environments to mount apps? This is something you can just find in Google. You can just Google it, search it, and give me or add it to your diary or logbook at the README file. Having said so, there's nothing additional to do in tutorial 1. See you on our next tutorial.